Prism violet and white. Any purple will do, as long as we're not using the same purple we have on the left. Something different, or even magenta or pink. Pink will do. Pink will look really nice too. So I'm using Prism violet and white, and I'm just going to keep it simple. I might add a bit of pink later on, little ones here and there. So I'm going to use a medium tone, not too light, not too dark, so I can have enough for highlighting, enough room to highlight. So medium value. And I'm using a bright, number 4. It tapers to a good kind of thin line, kind of. And for the first layer, I'm just going to go, this is the brush stroke that I used. It's going this way. It doesn't matter what you get now. This is not the last one. This is just the base. When I start highlighting, then I usually pay more attention to the shape. Right now, I'm just placing colors or the flowers. Some of them are smaller in shape. They're not all the same size. Okay, so this is a good layer, enough first layer for me to start highlighting. I'm not going to highlight right now. I'm just going to wait for you and then give you some time. So what I'm doing is, when my brush stroke is kind of dabbing and then sometimes just wispy, and then I turn. You'll see it more when I start highlighting. You'll see my brush stroke more, the brush stroke I'm using for this kind of flowers. Okay. Okay, so I added more white, not too much, enough for me to have a third layer of highlights. And I'm going to try to see if this one is okay. Yeah, that's good. So I'm doing the same brush stroke that I did before. I don't want to cover completely the darks, but I want to cover them enough to see the shape or the direction these flowers are going. Okay, so this one here, some of them are smaller. So this one here is going to be kind of slightly smaller. They're not all the same size. Now what I do is I try to drop in some dots in there, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So I'm like, some of them are not really they don't have the shape, but they have like dots, just floating dots around. See, now I can see the shape. So because I'm highlighting, so I can see kind of the shape of the flower. So when I'm doing, it's like using fanning those flowers, the shape. We still have the green to come. We're going to still be highlighting with the green. So whatever you see right now is not the final. Okay, I'm adding a little bit more white. And you need sometimes to wet your brush or wet your paint. Otherwise it will clump. You'll have like thick paint in there if you don't. Wipe it. I'm paying more attention now to the shape of the flower because I'm highlighting. So, yeah, I mean, I see it more. You see the shape when you highlight. So I'm trying not to have a repeated brushstroke, especially at the bottom, like this part of the flower. Try to have kind of different um, brush strokes that are not equal. Sometimes what I do is I don't highlight all of the flowers. Some of them I keep them kind of in the darkish value in here, darker than the ones in the front. Otherwise, everything will look on the same level. Okay. I'm going to wait for it to dry a bit because when it dries, it goes darker. And this way I can gauge the value. If I need to highlight more, it's actually drying right now. So I'm adding more white. And I'm going to come in and highlight part of each flower, maybe a little bit more white. So when I add white, I usually use less brush strokes because white is sometimes what it does, it just makes the brushstroke flat. And if I find that my highlights are too white, I can glaze over it with some pink or purple. The only way to find out or to figure out if the white is too light is to wait for it to dry. Okay. This color I'm using right now here is quinacridone crimson from Golden. So I'm going to use that, add prism in it, white, and that will give the flowers I'm working on a bit of warm reddish tone.
Did you say you're using a brand?
Yes, I'm putting it with prism. And don't put too much prism, but just a bit. And that gives it a really kind of, it brightens the color. Okay, I think it's enough. All right, so let's highlight the green. I have here sap green, cadmium yellow light, and some yellow ochre. See? Same kind of brush stroke. And this, now the highlight, the green, when I start highlighting, the green is going to shape the flowers too. Reshape them. It's like negative painting. Okay, let's take a bit of more yellow into my green. So the green kind of camouflages a bit the flowers and changes the shape of the flower position and the way sometimes it looks. So some of this green is going to be over part of a couple of these flowers. Put some of this same green highlighted at the bottom here.
Where?
At the bottom, around the pot. So some of this green is already dry. I'm going to bring in a little bit more of yellow into my green and give it a bit of highlight. And I'm going to take yellow, white, touch of white. Wow, this white is dry. Here's my brush, round. Small brush, round. And I'm just going to give it kind of a couple of little dots here and there. It just gives it life. Yellow, white, and a bit of green. Okay. Alizarin crimson, cadmium red light. And I take alizarin crimson, put a bit of cadmium red light in it. Not much, just a bit. And I'm going to come here. With a round brush. Yeah, I'm using a round brush. Number 1, yes. So they're going to dry darker because alizarin crimson is transparent. So, and it's over dark green. It's going to dry darker. That's okay. I'm going to bring in, I should wait actually, because otherwise I'm going to end up with, this is still wet. So I'm going to wait just a bit for it to dry. Otherwise, I'm not going to see any highlights. I think I'm okay except for this one here. So I'll avoid that one here in the center. I'm going to bring in more cadmium red light into the alizarin. Bring some a little bit up so they don't look like they're on the same level, all of them. I'm highlighting part of the flower, not the whole thing. Keeping an eye on the shape and position of the flowers. Some of them are underneath, so you don't see the whole thing highlighted. Part of it would be highlighted. Um, light is coming from the left, let's say, I think, or this is where I have it, but couple. Let's darken a bit here. Fluffy. Sounds like a name of a cat. Now I'm going to take just only cadmium red light. Don't clean your brush too much, because acrylic dries darker, and this is a good opportunity to add some interesting highlights. Okay. Now, same thing, green, sap green, yellow, cadmium yellow light, some of the yellow ochre, just to tone down the yellow, the light green, make it more earthy. And I'm just going to go in and add a couple of, actually, this is really light, too light. I'm going to bring in first some darker sap green, and then I will highlight. I don't like to highlight right away. You keep some of the dark so we don't lose depth. And now I can bring in some highlights. I'm using a round brush. Bit of yellow. Bit of yellow in my green. Bit more yellow. Just to push the color a bit more. So they don't all look the same value. Some of them will be lighter, some of them darker. Depends on how the light is hitting. Okay. Stick some red. Okay, so this is ultramarine violet and burnt sienna. I'm just mixing them together a bit, and then I'm gonna add a bit of a shadow here, more maybe as well down here, just a bit. And then I take my very small brush, round, get some white. I'm gonna go in and create a bit of kind of a dabs of sun inside this pot, inside here, because that's the sun is seeping through, and you'll get that kind of a bit of an interesting look to it. So it's not just, okay, that's enough. That's good. So this is how it looks this week. Next week, we will work on the walkway, some of the stairs, and we'll be done.